Number 7. The Great Western Railway, Alton Hall, number 5972. As I said before, I will have some British engines on this list. This one is not only an excursion star, it is also a movie star, as it was used in the Harry Potter film franchise. Built in April of 1937 at the Swindon Railway Works for the Great Western Railway. Engine retired from revenue service, and then it was sold to the scrapyard owned by Woodham Brothers. The Woodham Brothers had sold the locomotive to a private buyer, and it was stored at Procore, United Kingdom. In 1981, it was in the National Railway Museum in Chilton. It had returned to steam in May 20th, 1998. And then they painted the locomotive red with the Hogwarts Express logo in front and prepared it for the new film franchise, the Harry Potter movies. It wasn't only used for the Harry Potter movies, it was running in excursions a lot. It even ran Harry Potter fan trips too. There's a lot of movies to film, and Warner Brothers needed this engine a lot. Later on, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 had came out, and they no longer needed that locomotive. And then in July of 2014, the engine pulled its last excursion, and then retired. As of 2015, the locomotive remains on static display at Warner Brothers Studios in Leavesden. It will remain there for now, but I don't know if it will get another restoration and run again. Hopefully soon. Number 6. The 4 surviving Reading T1s. Wait, so 4 of the exact same type of steam locomotive ran an excursion, and not a single one of those T1s are still running today? Ouch. It is also very rare to have more than one of the exact same type of steam locomotive become an excursion star. Anyway, it's obvious why these 4 engines are together. They're the exact same type of steam locomotive. What else? The Reading's freight service was slow, and then they decided to convert their 280 consolidation types into 484 Northerns and calling them a T1s. This had changed their wheel arrangement big time. You can also nickname them T-Hogs. 30 of these engines were built for fast freight service, and then diesels replaced them. The Iron Horse Rambles led to the preservation of 4 T1s. 2100, the first one ever built, 2102 and 2124 pulled the Iron Horse Rambles, while 2101 was used as a backup engine in case if anything went wrong with the others. 2123 provided spare parts and then was scrapped. The 2124 had pulled the first one until it was purchased by F. Nelson Blount for his 1962 Steamtown USA collection. Steamtown USA has been moved to Riverside, Vermont in 1984, And then Scranton, Pennsylvania in 1986. The 2124 has been going along ever since they moved it. And now it's in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and it's been displayed there ever since. The rest were sent to a scrapyard, but were never scrapped. The 2102 was preserved and restored for fan trips for 23 years. It was later purchased by Andy Moeller for his Blue Mountain and Reading tourist railroad in Hamburg, Pennsylvania. For 6 years, it pulled tourist trains until its flue time expired in 1991. It was put in storage in Port Clinton, Pennsylvania in 1997. The 2100 and 2101 was later on purchased by Ross Rowland. They had to restore the 2101 with the help of 2100 giving spare parts. I guess that's why it took a remarkable 30 days to complete the restoration, and it pulled the American Freedom Train and renumbered to engine number 1. There was also a brass seagull on top of the headlight. It had pulled the American Freedom Train until one day the Southern Pacific GS4 number 4449 had took the locomotive's place. The engine was repainted, given back her original number, and painted as the Chessie Systems steam locomotive to pull the Chessie Steam Special to celebrate the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. Later on, it was stored at the Roundhouse, and then the Roundhouse had caught fire. They had to trade a 614 to take its place, and now it's at the Baltimore and Ohio Railway Museum and repainted as the American Freedom Train. The 614 had pulled the Chessie Steam Safety Express, a train that should educate the public of grade crossing safety, that should also educate the public of fire safety, because this happened. But wait, we talked about that engine already. Yeah. 2100 was later purchased by Richard Kuhn, who owns Lionel Trains during this time. And then they restored the engine into operating condition, and then sold to the Ontario shop, where it was converted to oil burn. The plans to pull the locomotive on excursions in the Rocky Mountains, these plans never came, and it was moved to Tacoma, Washington, where it pulled excursions, painted for the Ferroquist paint scheme, and then later on it retired. Well, 4 retired T1s, but don't worry, engine number 2100 and 2102 will soon be restored into operating condition, so 2 T1s will run again. Number 5. The Grand Trunk Western, number 5629, and Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, 5632. Why are these two together? You'll find out at the end. I just shouldn't spoil it for ya. In 1959, the 5629 was purchased by Richard Jensen and restored it to operating condition with the help of some volunteers. It would run a few excursions and even pull a circus train, until one day Richard Jensen had broke his back after moving a fridge. He couldn't run any more excursions after that, and stored the 5629 at a yard in the Rock Island Railroad. Later on, Metra bought that yard and needed the engine moved. Metra asked him to move it, but they wouldn't assist him getting there. This had led to a battle between two parties in the court, and if 5629 wasn't moved, they would scrap it. Railway preservationists heard about it, but it was too late, as if Metra had enough. This once preserved engine was scrapped. The 5632, after the end of steam, it was used along an excursion service owned by Louis W. Menck, who later on sold it to Richard Jensen. Jensen had rented space for it at a Chicago roundhouse, but then they kicked him out. And then later on, it was moved to a scrapyard, but promised they wouldn't scrap it until it derailed, and they couldn't get it back on the tracks. With no way of getting it back on the rails, they had cut the 5632 up. These engines are together as they suffered the exact same horrible fate. They were both scrapped. But hey, at least they have other surviving examples of these two. Number 4. The fastest steam locomotive in the world, the Millard. Well, it's not really the fastest steam locomotive in the world, as some other steam engines could have broken its record and it just wasn't recorded. Designed by Sir Nigel Grizzly and named after a duck. In the 3rd of July, 1938, it went 126 miles per hour, and it was known for breaking that record. This record was caused by a brake test. They got the engine to run again in 1986, but after a short period of time, it retired in 1988, and it remains on display ever since. It is at the National Railway Museum in York, and I'm sure that the Millard is the proud jewel of that collection. Be sure to click on my final part of the video, part 3.